When I think back to those days, it still stings a little. Standing on the corner of Maple Street with a folding table, a cash box, and a dozen trays of homemade pies. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't what I had dreamed about when I was a little girl. But it was what I had to do. I was 19, broke, and one step away from being homeless. College wasn't an option, not when my mom was in and out of the hospital, and I was the only one who could pay the bills. So I baked. Every evening after my shift at the diner, I'd go home, roll up my sleeves, and bake until my hands ached. Apple pies, cherry pies, pecan pies, whatever I thought might sell. And every morning, I'd set up my little stand outside the old post office, just trying to make enough to keep the lights on. That's where the laughing started. It wasn't everyone. Some people smiled, some bought a pie out of pity or kindness. But there was a group, always the same 3 or 4 kids from high school, the ones who had once ruled the hallways like they owned them. They'd pull up in shiny cars, Starbucks cups in hand, and make a show of it, pointing, laughing, whispering just loud enough for me to hear. You'd think she'd have some pride. Maybe we should toss her $1. Hey, save me a pie for when I get hungry from making real money. Their voices would trail after them like exhaust fumes, thick and nasty. I pretend not to hear, but inside, every word lodged itself under my skin. I hated them. I hated how small they made me feel. I hated that no matter how hard I worked, I was still the girl selling pies on the street. But even more than I hated them, I hated the idea of staying that way. So I worked, harder than they could ever imagine. I saved every crumpled dollar bill, every greasy handful of change. I took online courses at night, learned everything I could about business, marketing, branding. I experimented with new recipes, better packaging, a stronger logo. I listened to the customers who didn't sneer. What they liked, what they wanted more of. After 2 years, I scraped together enough to open a tiny bakery, Sweet Rise. It wasn't much, just a converted laundromat with peeling walls and a temperamental oven. But it was mine. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I had 4 solid walls around me and a sign with my name on it. Of course, at first, the same kids laughed even harder. Oh, she has a shop now. How cute. Wonder how long that'll last. But I didn't crumble. I smiled. I baked. I posted every day on social media. Photographed every golden pie crust and warm cinnamon swirl. Word spread. People who'd once driven past me started stopping in, then coming back, then bringing friends. I didn't just sell pies anymore. I sold warm memories, comfort, the smell of home. By the end of the 2nd year, I opened a 2nd location across town. Then a 3rd, then 5 more. The name Sweet Rise became a small local empire. I hired staff. I franchised. I started offering baking classes, then catering contracts. Meanwhile, the same kids who used to laugh at me, their lives didn't quite sparkle the way they had planned. One had a DUI and lost his job. Another floated from temp work to temp work. One girl had 2 kids with no support. The first time I saw one of them walk into my original bakery with a resume in hand, I almost didn't recognize him. The cocky smirk was gone. His clothes were rumpled. His eyes darted around nervously, as if he was half expecting me to throw him out. I didn't. I just smiled that same tired smile I'd worn years ago, the one they had laughed at. "How can I help you?" I asked sweetly. He swallowed, hard. I saw you're hiring. I could really use a job." I took his resume, pretended to study it, and nodded. "We'll be in touch," I said. He left, shoulders sagging, and I stood behind my gleaming counter, breathing in the smell of fresh pies, knowing I had already won. It didn't stop with him. Within weeks, 2 more of them showed up. Emily, who once snapped photos of me selling pies and posted them online with cruel captions, walked into my flagship bakery looking like a shadow of herself. Her hair, once perfect and glossy, was tied in a messy bun. Her nails were chipped. She clutched her phone like a lifeline. "Hi," she said, not meeting my eyes. "I heard you're looking for front of house staff. I have experience." Experience? Right. The girl who used to cackle at me for wearing secondhand jeans now needed me to hire her. "Leave your resume," I said warmly, motioning to the stack of applications. Watching her scribble her information down with trembling hands felt like tasting the sweetest pie I'd ever baked. After her, another, then another. It was almost comical, the steady line of former tormentors now desperate for a slice of what they once mocked. I hired a few of them, on purpose, not out of cruelty. Not exactly. I needed staff and they needed jobs. Simple math. But I didn't make it easy. They started at the bottom, cleaning tables, mopping floors, scrubbing ovens at the end of the night. No special treatment, no shortcuts. And they had to smile at every customer, even the ones who spoke rudely or knocked over a display. Smile like their lives depended on it. Sometimes I'd catch them sneaking glances at me through the kitchen windows. Me, sitting in my office, taking meetings, reviewing expansion plans, dressed in sleek suits, signing contracts, shaking hands with investors. I saw the disbelief in their eyes. The same girl they used to humiliate was now running a business empire while they wiped tables for minimum wage. And it wasn't just the bakery anymore. I had catering contracts with half the city's major events. Sweet Rise was on billboards, featured in magazines. Everywhere they turned, my name stared back at them. I could have fired them. I could have rubbed their faces in every success. But the truth was, seeing them clock in every morning, wearing aprons with my logo, was better revenge than any cruel words I could have said. I built my empire one pie at a time. They built their regret one shift at a time. And I wasn't done yet. The city's annual small business gala was approaching, and this year, Sweet Rise had been selected to cater the entire event. It was a huge honor, one that cemented my place among the city's most successful entrepreneurs. I decided to bring a few staff members along to work the event, including some of the old high school crowd now on my payroll. Fitting, I thought, poetic even. The ballroom buzzed with energy, glittering dresses, sharp suits, glasses clinking. News outlets hovered at the edges, snapping photos, gathering quotes. My bakery's signature pies were everywhere, their scent cutting through the expensive perfume. I stood on stage to accept the Entrepreneur of the Year award, the spotlight hot on my skin. Applause thundered through the room. I could see them in the crowd. Emily, Jason, Tyler, frozen, their faces pale. I stepped up to the microphone. "Thank you," I began, steady and clear. Years ago, some people laughed at me for selling pies on the street corner. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Tonight, I stand here because I refused to let their laughter define me. I caught their eyes one by one, holding each gaze a second longer than necessary. To anyone out there who's ever been laughed at, belittled, or told to dream smaller, let them laugh. Then build something so great, they'll end up working for you. The applause was deafening. Afterward, as guests mingled, the press swarmed me for interviews. My former bullies, now servers for the evening, hovered at the edges, trays trembling in their hands. I didn't need to say a word to them. My success spoke louder than any insult ever could. That night, as I slipped into the back of my town car, trophy in hand, I finally allowed myself a small, satisfied smile. I had become the woman they never saw coming, and they had become the footnotes in my story.